Life is full of risk. Every day you wake up, you make choices that determine the direction your life will take. And every one of those choices involves a certain amount of risk. You can't escape it. It's built into the very fabric of existence. But here's the thing. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid risk, as if that avoidance will somehow keep them safe. The truth is, not taking a risk is itself a risk. And often it's the worst kind you can take. Think about it. When you refuse to take risks, what you're really doing is confining yourself to a small, comfortable space, a bubble that feels safe, but is actually limiting your growth, your potential, and your ability to truly live. In avoiding risk, you end up taking the risk of missing out on everything that could make your life meaningful. The greatest risk you take by playing it safe is that you may never discover who you could truly become. One of the first things you need to understand is that comfort and growth cannot coexist. Growth is uncomfortable by its very nature because it requires you to step outside of what you know, to push against your limits, and to venture into territory that is unfamiliar and uncertain. This is why taking risks is so essential, because it forces you to grow. It forces you to expand your boundaries, to learn, to adapt, and to become stronger. Now, many people think that risk is reckless, that taking risks means gambling everything on a whim. But there's a difference between reckless risk and calculated risk. Reckless risk is impulsive. It's driven by a desire for excitement without any thought for the consequences. But calculated risk, that's something different. Calculated risk means looking at the opportunities in front of you, understanding the potential outcomes, and making a decision to step forward, even when you know it's not guaranteed. It means accepting the possibility of failure, but being willing to take the chance anyway, because you understand that growth only happens on the edge of uncertainty. We're taught to fear failure as if it's something to be avoided at all costs. But failure is not the enemy. Failure is the feedback you need to adjust your course, to get better, to learn. You can't avoid failure if you want to achieve anything of value in life. In fact, failure is often the very thing that propels you towards success. If you're willing to learn from it, adapt, and try again. You need to change your relationship with failure and understand that every time you fail, you're not stepping back. You're stepping forward, gaining insight and resilience that you wouldn't have had otherwise. There's a concept I've often talked about called chaos and order. Life is a balance between these two forces. Order is where you're comfortable, it's where things are predictable and you feel in control. Chaos, on the other hand, is where things are uncertain, where you have to navigate the unknown, and where risk is ever present. But here's the key. All growth happens in the realm of chaos. If you stay in the realm of order all the time, you may feel safe, but you'll never grow. You'll never learn what you're capable of, and you'll never experience the richness of life that comes from stepping into the unknown. Risk is stepping out of order into chaos with the belief that there is something of value to be gained. It's stepping into the unknown with the courage to believe that you can handle whatever comes your way. And in doing so, you find out what you're truly made of. You discover strengths you didn't know you had. You develop skills you never would have thought to cultivate. And most importantly, you become more than you were before. You can't become stronger without resistance. You can't become wise without experience. And you can't become successful without taking risks. Imagine that you're standing at the edge of a cliff, looking across at another cliff. And between you is a chasm. On the other side is everything you want. Success, fulfillment, purpose. But in order to get there, you have to take a leap. You have to leave behind the safety of solid ground and trust that you'll either make it across or, at the very least, learn something valuable if you fall. The truth is, most people stay on the cliff. They stand there and look across at what could be, but they never take the leap. They tell themselves that it's too risky, that they might fall, that they might fail. But what they don't realize is that by staying put, they're taking a different kind of risk, the risk of never knowing what they could have achieved, never becoming who they could have been. And that, I would argue, is a far greater risk. Risk is what allows you to move forward in life. Every major decision you make, whether it's changing jobs, starting a business, moving to a new city, or entering into a relationship, carries risk. You might fail, you might lose, you might get hurt, but what's the alternative? To stay where you are, to never try, to let fear dictate the boundaries of your life. If you want a life that is full of meaning, you need to be willing to take risks, to be willing to face the fear of the unknown, and to trust in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. And here's the thing, you are stronger than you think. Most people don't know how strong they are because they've never been pushed to find out. They've avoided risk, avoided discomfort, and in doing so, they've avoided discovering the true extent of their potential. But when you take a risk, when you face a challenge head on, you start to see what you're capable of. You start to understand that you can handle much more than you ever imagined. Taking a risk doesn't mean being careless. It means being courageous. It means looking at your fear, acknowledging it, and deciding to move forward anyway. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the willingness to act despite that fear. Every time you take a risk, every time you step into the unknown, you are exercising your courage, and that courage becomes stronger with every step. Consider the people you admire, those who have achieved great things, who have made a difference, who have lived lives full of meaning and purpose. What do they all have in common? They took risks. They faced challenges. They failed. They fell. But they got back up and tried again. They understood that the only way to grow, the only way to truly live, is to take the risk. It's easy to sit back and let life happen to you, to stay in your comfort zone and avoid anything that feels too uncertain. But if you do that, you'll wake up one day and realize that life has passed you by. You'll realize that all the things you wanted, all the dreams you had, are still on the other side of that chasm, and you never took the leap. The only way to live a life that is truly fulfilling is to take the risk, to jump into the unknown, and to have faith that you'll find your way. The risk of inaction is often greater than the risk of action. When you don't take action, you risk stagnation, regret, and a life that is less than what it could have been. You risk never discovering what you're truly capable of, never reaching your full potential. When you choose inaction, you are choosing comfort over growth, fear over courage, and safety over the possibility of greatness. So ask yourself, what are you afraid of? What risks are you avoiding because they make you uncomfortable? What dreams have you put on hold because you're afraid of failing? And then ask yourself, what's the cost of not taking that risk? What's the cost of staying exactly where you are? If the cost is your growth, your happiness, your potential, then maybe it's time to take that risk. Life is about embracing the adventure. It's about stepping out into the world, facing the chaos, and discovering what you're capable of. It's about taking the risks that matter, the ones that move you closer to your goals, to your dreams, to the person you want to become. And when you take those risks, when you step into the unknown, you will find that life becomes richer, more meaningful, and full of possibility. Don't let fear hold you back. Don't let the comfort of the known keep you from exploring what's possible. Take the risk. Step into the unknown. Embrace the uncertainty and discover who you can become. Because the greatest risk of all is to do nothing, to stay exactly where you are, and to let life pass you by. Your life is worth the risk. Your dreams are worth the risk. You are worth the risk. So take the leap, trust in yourself, and see where it takes you. You might fail, you might fall, but you'll also grow, you'll learn, and you'll become stronger. And in the end, you'll find that the greatest rewards in life are always on the other side of the risk. You see, there is something deeply transformative about taking risks. It's not just about achieving success or gaining material rewards. It's about who you become in the process. When you choose to take a risk, you choose to step into discomfort, to face uncertainty, and to grapple with your fears. And in doing so, you change. You become a person who is capable of facing challenges head-on, who is willing to grow, and who refuses to settle for less than what they are capable of achieving. Think about the times in your life when you felt the most alive. Were they moments of comfort, of routine, of safety, or were they moments when you took a chance, stepped into the unknown, and felt the rush of doing something you didn't know you could do? Life is an adventure, and adventures are inherently risky. They involve stepping out of the familiar and into the unknown, and that's what makes them meaningful. There's a concept in psychology called voluntary exposure to the unknown. It's a principle that suggests that if you willingly face what frightens you, if you step into uncertainty of your own accord, you transform that chaos into something meaningful. You integrate it, you make it a part of who you are, and you grow stronger as a result. This is what happens when you take a risk. You face the unknown voluntarily, and in doing so, you gain power over it. You transform fear into competence, uncertainty into experience, and chaos into order. Taking a risk also means giving yourself permission to fail. And that's an incredibly powerful thing because most of us are terrified of failure. We're taught that failure is something to be avoided, that it's a reflection of our worth or our ability. But the reality is failure is simply a part of the process of growth. Every time you fail, you learn something, you gain insight, you build resilience, and you develop a deeper understanding of what works and what doesn't. Consider the people who have achieved great things, whether in business, art, science, or any other field. They didn't get there without failing. In fact, they probably failed more times than most people even tried. But they didn't let those failures define them. Instead, they used each failure as a stepping stone, as a way to learn and adapt. They understood that success is built on a foundation of failures, of risks taken, of lessons learned the hard way. When you take a risk, you are also sending a message to yourself, a message that you are worth it, that your dreams are worth pursuing, even if the path is uncertain. You're telling yourself that you believe in your ability to handle whatever comes, that you trust yourself to find a way forward, even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. That kind of self-belief is incredibly empowering, and it's something that only comes from stepping out of your comfort zone. Comfort zones are seductive. They provide a sense of safety, a feeling of predictability, and an illusion of control. But they are also the places where dreams go to die. If you stay within your comfort zone, you may never experience outright failure, but you also never experience the exhilaration of success, the satisfaction of growth, or the joy of achieving something you once thought was impossible. To truly live, you have to be willing to step beyond the boundaries of what is comfortable. And yes, it's scary. There's no denying that. The unknown is frightening because it is, by definition, uncertain. But what you need to understand is that your fear is not your enemy. Fear is simply a signal that you're stepping into something important, something that matters. It's your body's way of preparing you for action. If you let fear paralyze you, you lose. But if you let fear motivate you, if you let it sharpen your focus and drive your actions, then you turn fear into a powerful ally. Think about a time when you felt fear but moved forward anyway. Maybe it was asking someone out, applying for a job you weren't sure you'd get, or speaking in front of an audience. Whatever it was, you felt the fear, but you didn't let it stop you. And what happened? Chances are you found that the reality was not as frightening as your imagination made it out to be. You discovered that you were capable of handling the situation, and you came out stronger on the other side. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting in spite of fear. It's understanding that fear is a part of the process and choosing to move forward anyway. And every time you do that, every time you take a risk, despite the fear, you grow a little more. you become a little braver, a little stronger, a little more confident in your own abilities. And that confidence becomes a foundation for future risks, for greater challenges, and for a life that is rich with meaning. One of the reasons that people avoid risk is because they are afraid of what others might think. They're afraid of being judged, of looking foolish, of failing in front of others. But the truth is, other people's opinions do not define your worth. If you let the fear of judgment hold you back, you're giving away your power. You're letting other people dictate the boundaries of your life, and that's no way to live. You need to understand that the people who judge you are often the ones who are too afraid to take risks themselves. They project their own fears onto others because it's easier than facing their own shortcomings. Instead of worrying about what others might think, focus on what you want for yourself. What do you want to achieve? Who do you want to become? What kind of life do you want to live? These are the questions that matter. And if the answers to those questions involve taking risks, if they require you to step into the unknown, to face challenges, to possibly fail, then that's what you need to do. Taking a risk is also about believing in your ability to create something meaningful. It's about trusting that even if the outcome isn't what you hoped for, the effort itself is worthwhile. You learn, you grow, and you contribute. And in the process, you discover a deeper sense of purpose. When you take risks, you open yourself up to opportunities that would never have come your way if you had stayed within the confines of safety. And remember, it's not just about the big risks, starting a business, moving to a new country, or pursuing a lifelong dream. It's also about the small, everyday risks that lead to growth. It's about having a difficult conversation, standing up for yourself, or trying something new. Every time you take a risk, no matter how small, you are practicing courage. You are developing the muscle of bravery, and over time, those small acts of courage add up to something significant. We live in a world that often emphasizes security and stability. We're told to get a stable job, to save for retirement, to minimize uncertainty. And while there's value in being responsible and planning for the future, there's also a danger in making safety your highest value. If all you care about is staying safe, you'll never take the risks necessary to achieve anything remarkable. You'll never know what you're capable of, and you'll never experience the full range of what life has to offer. Taking the risk is about making a choice to live fully rather than merely exist. It's about embracing the challenges that come your way, about stepping into the unknown with the belief that you can handle whatever comes. It's about understanding that failure is not the end, but rather a step along the journey. It's about trusting that even when things don't go as planned, you have the resilience to adapt, to learn, and to try again. So take the risk, step into the unknown, face your fears, challenge yourself. And remember, the greatest rewards in life are reserved for those who are willing to take the greatest risks. You have within you the strength, the courage, and the capability to achieve more than you can imagine. But you'll never know unless you take the leap. Take the risk, embrace the adventure, and discover what you're truly capable of. When we talk about taking risks, we're really talking about stepping into the process of becoming more than who you are now, becoming someone who is capable of more, someone who is strong enough to take on the world and make something meaningful out of it. But let's face it, most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid discomfort. We're biologically wired to seek comfort and safety, and in many cases, that instinct is necessary for survival. But there's a fundamental problem when comfort becomes our default mode, when safety becomes our primary aim, and when avoiding discomfort keeps us from moving forward. The greatest paradox of growth is that the very things that make you uncomfortable are the same things that make you stronger. If you want to build muscle, you have to lift weights that challenge you. You have to push against resistance. It's the exact same principle when it comes to emotional, psychological, or spiritual growth. To grow, you need to face challenges that stretch you beyond what you currently know or are comfortable with. That's why taking risks is so crucial. It provides the necessary resistance that makes you stronger. The process of growth is uncomfortable, and it's supposed to be that way. When you step into the unknown, your brain and your body react, your heart races, your palms sweat, and your mind fills with what ifs. What if you fail? What if you get hurt? What if you lose everything? But what you have to realize is that those are not signs that you should stop. They are signs that you're stepping into something meaningful. They are the signals that tell you this matters. If it didn't matter, you wouldn't feel that fear. Fear and excitement are two sides of the same coin. When you take a risk, you feel both at the same time. You're scared because you don't know what will happen, but you're also excited because of the possibility that something amazing could happen. And that excitement is what fuels courage. When you can see the potential on the other side of the risk, it gives you the motivation to step forward, even when you're afraid. It's about cultivating a mindset that sees risk not as something to be feared, but as an opportunity to grow, to change, and to create. Let's talk about what happens when you don't take risks. Let's consider the cost of inaction. You see, there is a cost to everything in life. There is a cost to taking risks, but there is also a cost to staying safe. The cost of staying safe, of not taking risks, is often much greater than people realize. It's the cost of stagnation. It's the cost of never finding out what you're capable of. It's the cost of living a life that is far less fulfilling than it could have been. It's the cost of regret, of waking up one day, looking back on your life, and realizing that you never really lived. That's the ultimate risk, to live a life devoid of purpose, meaning, and adventure. Think about it. What are the greatest stories ever told? The ones that inspire us, that move us, that make us believe in something greater. They are all stories of people who took risks. They are stories of heroes who faced challenges, who stepped into the unknown, who overcame obstacles, and who emerged transformed on the other side. Imagine if those heroes had chosen to stay in their comfort zones. Imagine if they had decided that the risk was too great, that it wasn't worth the discomfort. There would be no story. There would be no growth, no transformation, no adventure. And here's what you need to understand. You are the hero of your own story. Your life is a journey, and it's up to you to decide what kind of story it will be. Will it be a story of courage, adventure, and transformation? Or will it be a story of fear, safety, and missed opportunities? You get to choose. Every day, you are presented with choices, opportunities to take risks, to step into the unknown, to grow. And every time you choose to take the risk, you are choosing to become the hero of your story. Being the hero of your story doesn't mean you won't fail. In fact, you will fail. Failure is inevitable when you take risks, but that's not the end of the story. That's just a part of the journey. The hero always faces setbacks. The hero always falls down. But what makes them a hero is that they get back up. They learn from their failures, they adapt, and they keep moving forward. And every time they do, they grow stronger, wiser, and more capable. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's a crucial part of it. You have to be willing to fail if you want to succeed. You have to be willing to take risks, to step into the unknown, to face challenges that you might not be ready for. Because that's how you grow. That's how you become the person who is capable of achieving what you want. The path to success is paved with failures, and each failure is a stepping stone that brings you closer to your goal. One of the biggest barriers to taking risks is the fear of judgment. We're social creatures, and we care about what others think of us. We don't want to look foolish, we don't want to be embarrassed, and we don't want to fail in front of others. But if you let the fear of judgment hold you back, you are giving away your power. You are letting other people's opinions dictate your life. And here's the truth. Most people are too caught up in their own lives to care about what you're doing. And those who judge you, they are often the ones who are too afraid to take risks themselves. They judge because it's easier than facing their own fears and inadequacies. You cannot let other people's opinions determine the course of your life. You have to decide what you want, what you value, and what kind of life you want to live. And if that means taking risks, if it means stepping into the unknown, facing challenges, and possibly failing, then that's what you need to do, because at the end of the day, it's your life. You are the one who has to live with the consequences of your choices. And if you choose not to take risks because you're afraid of what others might think, you're only hurting yourself. Taking risks is also about embracing uncertainty. We live in a world that is inherently unpredictable. We cannot control everything, and we cannot predict the future with certainty. But that doesn't mean we should shy away from taking action. It means we need to develop a relationship with uncertainty that allows us to move forward, even when we don't know what the outcome will be. It means cultivating the courage to take a step, even when the path is not fully clear. Courage is not about being fearless. It's about feeling the fear and moving forward anyway. It's about acknowledging the risks, understanding the potential for failure, and choosing to act regardless. And here's the thing, every time you act in the face of fear, every time you take a risk, you are building your courage. You are becoming more resilient, more capable, and more confident in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. And that courage becomes a foundation for future risks, future challenges, and future growth. One of the most powerful things you can do is to reframe your relationship with failure. Instead of seeing failure as something to be avoided, see it as an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to become better. Failure is feedback. It tells you what didn't work, what needs to be adjusted, and how you can improve. If you're not failing, you're not trying. You're not pushing yourself, you're not growing, and you're not taking the risks necessary to achieve anything meaningful. Risk is the price of admission to a meaningful life. If you want to live a life that is rich with meaning, that is full of purpose, and that is aligned with your deepest values, you have to be willing to take risks. You have to be willing to face challenges, to step into the unknown, and to pursue what matters to you, even when it's scary, because that's what makes life worth living, the pursuit of something meaningful, the courage to take risks, and the growth that comes from facing challenges head on. Let's talk about comfort zones again. Comfort zones are safe, they're predictable, and they're familiar, but they are also limiting. When you stay in your comfort zone, you are not growing. You are not challenging yourself. You are not learning, and you are not becoming the person you are capable of being. If you want to grow, you have to be willing to step out of your comfort zone. You have to be willing to face discomfort, to embrace uncertainty, and to take risks. And it's not just about taking the big risks, the ones that change the course of your life. It's also about the small, everyday risks that lead to growth. It's about having the courage to speak up when you have something to say, to set boundaries when you need to protect your well-being, and to try something new, even if you're not sure how it will turn out. Every time you take a small risk, you are practicing courage. You are building the habit of stepping into the unknown, and over time, those small acts of courage add up to something significant. You don't need to take massive leaps all the time. Sometimes taking risks is about taking small, consistent steps. It's about making a decision to move forward, even if it's just one small step at a time. The key is to keep moving, to keep stepping into the unknown, to keep challenging yourself. And as you do, you'll find that the unknown becomes less intimidating. You'll find that you become more comfortable with discomfort, more willing to take on challenges, and more confident in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. Remember this, you are capable of far more than you think. Most people never discover what they're truly capable of because they never push themselves to find out. They stay within the confines of what is comfortable, what is familiar, and what is safe. But if you want to live a life that is meaningful, you have to be willing to take risks. You have to be willing to face challenges that push you beyond what you think you can do. Because it's in those moments when you are pushing yourself, challenging yourself, and stepping into the unknown that you discover what you are truly capable of. So take the risk, Step into the unknown. Embrace the discomfort, face the fear, and trust in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. Because the greatest risk of all is to do nothing, to stay exactly where you are, to let life pass you by, and to never discover what you could have achieved, who you could have become, and what kind of impact you could have made. Life is an adventure, and it's up to you to decide whether you will embrace it. Take the risk, embrace the uncertainty, and discover what you are truly capable of. The world needs people who are willing to take risks, who are willing to face challenges, and who are willing to pursue something meaningful. And you have the potential to be one of those people. So take the leap, trust in yourself, and see where it takes you. The greatest rewards in life are always on the other side of the risk.